Okay, let's get started. I hope everyone is having a great day today. It's Wednesday. We're going to do a Rashi from the fourth Aliyah. The Aliyahs continue. Just 1 second. Let me get that up for you. Done. Here we go. Sorry about that. The aliyahs continue with the description of the construction of the Mishkan. We had the first few aliyahs, the description of some of the kalim, some of the vessels. We described the aron, and then after the aron, the kapores, the covering over the aron. Yesterday's aliyah, we discussed the menorah that had to be made miksha achas. It was mentioned yesterday, the strange Rashi, which tells us that somehow it was a block thrown in the fire and it came out the other end, or Moshe had a vision of what it was supposed to be because he had trouble figuring out exactly how to construct it. Our aliyah today, actually, in the end of yesterday's aliyah, the end of the third aliyah, it already goes to the construction of the Mishkan itself, the boards, the tapestries, the coverings, and all of the physical implements of the structure of the Mishkan itself, rather than the kalim, the vessels. And in our aliyah, it picks up with one specific part of the construction of the shell of the Mishkan itself, and that is the krashim, the boards, the standing planks of wood that went all along the sides, from which the curtains were hung and the walls were made. So the aliyah begins with the command to make these krashim. V'asisa es ha-krashim lamishkan atzei shitim omdim. That these krashim, these beams, these boards were supposed to be made for the Mishkan out of acacia wood, atzei shitim omdim, standing acacia wood. And that's not surprising. Many things of the Mishkan are made from atzei shitim, and the fact that they're omdim is not surprising. These had to be standing planks so that they could support the walls of the Mishkan, or become the walls of the Mishkan itself. What Rashi picks up on in the pasuk is hakrashim, the definite article, ha-krashim. It's not va'asisa krashim, you should make beams, but asisa es ha-krashim, you should make the beams, somehow pointing to some specific beam, some specific kind of beam that are supposed to be used for the construction of the Mishkan. And Rashi over here explains, Haya lolomar v'asisa krashim, should have said, you should make krashim. Like it says in every other piece of the Mishkan, you should make this, you should make that. Not you should make the this or the that, the specific this or that, but rather generally you construct the Mishkan, you construct the Yerios, you construct the Krashim, you construct the Adanim, you construct the Lulaos, all of the different pieces of the construction of the Mishkan. Why Ha-Krashim? Mahu Ha-Krashim. And as some of you might have known or seen in the past or learned in the past, very beautiful idea from Chazal over here that Rashi quotes on this pasuk. Why is it hakrashim? Because it is talking about very specific pieces of wood that were used for these krashim, these designated krashim. Ma'osan ha'omdim u'miyuchadim lekach. You should make krashim from the atzei shitim that were designated for this purpose. It's not just asisa krashim. Generally, you should make planks out of acacia wood, but you should make the planks that had already been designated and set aside for with the atzei shitim omdim that were already standing, that were already existent, that were already designated from beforehand. So Chazal combined the omdim with the hey hayediyah with the omdim at the end of the pasuk. Omdim is superfluous. Hey is a little bit odd. It puts them together and says it must be talking about specific krashim that are being made from specific atzei shitim that were omdim, that were already miuchadim lekach, they were already designated and set aside for that purpose. So what are these krashim? Why were they designated? Where was this acacia wood before it was being made now into the krashim? Yaakov Avinu nata arazim Mitzrayim. Yaakov Avinu, when he came down to Egypt, he planted cedar trees. He planted certain kind of forest. And when he died, he commanded his descendants that when they would leave Egypt after the slavery was completely over, that they should take these trees with them. When they would finally leave Egypt. Why would they take them? Why was it so important? Why did he want them to have trees along with them? Because after all, I know, says Yaakov, that one day after you leave here, after you leave slavery, after you leave Mitzrayim, Hashem is going to command you in the desert to make a mishkan, to make a dwelling place out of atzei shitim. Therefore, see to it that these pieces of wood, these trees will already be ready for you when you're ready to use them for construction of this holy purpose. Somehow Yaakov was foreshadowing the fact that they would need wood for the Mishkan, and he tells them to be ready, as if it was their primary purpose in leaving Mitzrayim and leaving slavery to build a house for Hashem. There's many beautiful symbolisms to this Rashi and this idea, the idea that all of the what do you call it? Not the downfall, the descent of the Jewish people into Egypt was all predesignated. Of course, it was told already to Avraham Avinu, and that was passed to Yitzchak and to Yaakov. He knew that bad times would come, but he also knew good times would come. He also knew that the Geula would come. All of this story was foreshadowed. That's one message. Another message is that there's a connection of the generations, that when they built the Mishkan later on in history, it was a Mishkan that wasn't just originated in their time and by them, but it was already kind of began to be built by Yaakov Avinu. It was part of the heritage of their ancestors that had come before them. In a certain way, Yaakov planted the trees that were eventually cut to be used for the Mishkan. Yaakov started the construction of the Mishkan. It's a Mishkan that dates back all the way to the early days of our heritage and of our family. It's another beautiful idea. A third idea is that we should also be zaris. We should always be ready to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We should always be ready for spiritual pursuits and fulfillment of the mitzvah. If the command for the Mishkan was to come, says Yaakov to his descendants, you can't just say, okay, well, now I'm going to figure out where am I going to get wood and how is it going to go. You got to be ready to go. As soon as Hashem commands you, as soon as you have an opportunity for a mitzvah, you don't let it pass. You don't let it slide. You're ready to go. Those are just some of the beautiful ideas that are part of this Rashi, as well as many others, which we're not even pointing to right now. And again, you have to understand, what is a Rashi? What is a Medrash? Is it saying literally that they constructed the entire Mishkan and all of the wood for the Mishkan came from the trees that Yaakov planted? They had a whole forest that they took with them and left in time? I don't know. Was it saying symbolically there was one tree that Yaakov planted there that then they took with them that constructed a specific part of the Mishkan, like another Medrash would point to? Perhaps. Or is it just saying in general that Yaakov was preparing them for their future? Maybe not literally with the same trees, but telling them that when they left Egypt, they had to be ready for the service of Hashem and to be able to elevate themselves to higher spiritual level than slaves, to be able to build a house for Hashem amongst them and to be excited and ready to do so. Maybe, whatever it is, a beautiful symbolism of the tying together of multiple generations over here in the construction of the Mishkan, not just being something that emanates all of a sudden out of the will of the moment in response to Chet HaEgel or in response to their travels through the desert, whatever the case might be, but something that was already foreshadowed ahead of time, that was connected to earlier generations, the heritage which they came from. Wish you all a wonderful day, and hope you take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Have a nice day.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you.